The mother of the person you love made a very big decision about you this morning. You need to hear it. You wake up feeling like every other morning, believing nothing has changed, believing the world is still quietly moving without you. But somewhere, before the sun had fully climbed into the sky, a decision was made that quietly shifted the direction of your story. You didn't hear the conversation. You didn't see the expression on the face that carried the weight of years. You didn't notice the silence that lingered after the final words were spoken. And yet, that single moment has already begun reaching toward you like an invisible thread pulling at your heart, because what happened this morning was never just about someone else. Somehow, in ways you still cannot explain, it has become about you, and the reason is far deeper than you imagine. You may have been wondering lately why everything has felt so uncertain. Why your heart keeps returning to the same person even when logic tells you to move on. Why certain memories refuse to disappear no matter how much time passes. It almost feels as if life has been keeping you in one place, asking you to wait without ever explaining why. Waiting is painful when you cannot see the purpose behind it. But what if your waiting has never been wasted? What if every delay, every unanswered message, every sleepless night has been leading to this exact morning, because something finally changed where you least expected it? The mother of the person you love woke up carrying thoughts she had tried to ignore for a long time. Sometimes people protect those they love by holding tightly to old beliefs. Sometimes fear disguises itself as wisdom. Sometimes memories from the past become walls that even kindness struggles to climb. You may never have realized how many silent opinions were formed long before anyone truly understood your heart. Yet this morning, something interrupted those old patterns, and the interruption was impossible to ignore. It did not happen with loud voices or dramatic arguments. Instead, it happened inside a quiet moment that almost looked ordinary. Maybe it was while holding a warm cup of coffee. Maybe it was while standing near a window watching the morning light touch the trees. Maybe it was after remembering something that refused to leave the heart. There are moments when life becomes strangely still, and in that stillness people begin hearing truths they spent years avoiding. That stillness arrived today, carrying with it a question that could no longer remain unanswered. Have you ever noticed how life speaks through the smallest signs? A forgotten photograph. A familiar song appearing at the perfect time. A dream that refuses to fade after waking. Most people dismiss these moments as coincidence, but deep inside, you know they often carry something more. This morning, one of those signs appeared. It reached someone who never expected to be moved by it. A memory returned with surprising clarity, bringing emotions that had been buried beneath pride, fear, and misunderstanding. Suddenly, old assumptions no longer felt as certain as they once had. The strange thing about truth is that it rarely arrives all at once. It comes like the sunrise, revealing one small piece after another. At first, only shadows disappear. Then shapes become visible. Finally, everything stands exposed beneath the light. That is exactly what began happening this morning. A heart that once questioned you slowly began remembering things differently. Conversations were replayed. Moments were reconsidered. Even silence started revealing answers words had failed to provide. And the deeper those memories reached, the harder it became to ignore what they were quietly saying. You never truly knew how closely someone had been observing you. While you believed your kindness went unnoticed, someone was paying attention. While you thought your patience looked like weakness, someone recognized quiet strength. While you worried your love had not been enough, someone remembered the times you chose compassion when anger would have been easier. Those memories gathered together this morning like pieces of a puzzle finally forming one clear picture. But that picture carried one realization powerful enough to change everything. For so long, fear had been speaking louder than hope. Fear has a convincing voice. It whispers that people never change. It insists that disappointment is inevitable. It builds stories that feel safer than trust. But hope is different. Hope waits patiently. Hope never shouts. It simply remains alive beneath the surface until the perfect moment arrives. Today, hope finally found its voice, and when it did, it asked one simple question that no one in the room could escape: what if you had been misunderstood from the very beginning? That question settled heavily in the air. It lingered longer than anyone expected. Because once it appeared, every past judgment suddenly demanded another look. Every concern needed fresh eyes. Every old conclusion felt incomplete. The more that question echoed through the heart, the more impossible it became to hold on to the same opinions that once seemed so certain. Meanwhile, you continued living your day without realizing invisible doors were beginning to unlock around you. Isn't it remarkable how life often changes before we become aware of it? Some of the greatest turning points happen quietly. They unfold while you're washing dishes, driving to work, or staring absent-mindedly at the sky. Destiny rarely announces itself with fireworks. More often, it enters disguised as an ordinary morning. And this ordinary morning has become anything but ordinary. There was a moment when tears almost appeared. Not tears of sadness alone, but tears born from recognition. Sometimes people finally see what has been standing in front of them all along. Sometimes regret arrives gently, carrying not punishment but understanding. This morning brought that understanding. It revealed something impossible to ignore. Love is rarely measured by perfection. It is measured by consistency, by sacrifice, by the quiet ways someone continues showing up even when no one applauds them. Suddenly, your story looked very different through those eyes. The heart has an unusual way of remembering details the mind forgets. It remembers your smile during difficult days. It remembers your respect even when emotions were high. It remembers moments when you expected nothing in return. These memories resurfaced one after another, refusing to stay buried. They created a picture stronger than fear, stronger than doubt, stronger than every old assumption. And once that picture became clear, the decision waiting inside could no longer remain delayed. But here is where everything becomes even more mysterious. The decision made this morning was not only about accepting or rejecting an idea. It reached deeper than anyone expected. It involved letting go of something carried for years. Pride had to loosen its grip. Old disappointments had to release their hold. Hidden worries had to surrender to something greater than certainty. That kind of change is never easy. Yet somehow, today became the day it finally happened. The question is, what made today different from every day before it? Perhaps it was destiny quietly arranging pieces behind the scenes. Perhaps it was the weight of time reminding everyone that life moves faster than we realize. Or perhaps it was simply the awakening of a heart that grew tired of resisting what love had been whispering all along. Whatever the reason, something shifted that cannot easily be undone. Once truth enters a room, it becomes impossible to pretend it never arrived. And now that truth has begun spreading further than anyone imagined. You have probably felt moments lately when your intuition seemed stronger than usual. Maybe your heart has been unusually restless. Maybe certain dreams have carried emotions you couldn't explain. Maybe you've sensed that something important was approaching without knowing what it was. Those feelings were not meaningless. Sometimes your spirit notices change before your eyes ever witness it. Sometimes your soul hears footsteps long before someone knocks at the door. And today, those footsteps are closer than ever. Love often survives places where certainty cannot. It waits through silence. It survives misunderstandings. It remains alive beneath disappointment, quietly believing tomorrow might reveal what today hides. That is why hope has refused to leave you completely. Even during moments when giving up seemed easier, something inside kept asking you to hold on just a little longer. Now you begin understanding why that feeling never disappeared, yet every powerful decision creates another choice. Once one heart changes, others must decide whether they are willing to change too. Acceptance opens one door, but forgiveness opens another. Understanding begins one journey, but trust completes it. This morning may have started something extraordinary, but the next step belongs to someone whose heart is still wrestling with emotions too deep to describe. That struggle has already begun, and its outcome remains uncertain. As evening slowly approaches, invisible conversations continue unfolding where you cannot see them. Words are being chosen carefully. Feelings are being weighed. Silence is speaking louder than anyone expected. There is anticipation in the air, mixed with fear, hope, and the unmistakable sense that nothing will remain the same once the next sentence is finally spoken. Every passing minute brings that moment closer, and still one final truth remains hidden, because the biggest surprise was never the decision itself. The biggest surprise is the reason behind it, and when that reason finally reaches you, when you discover what was quietly revealed this morning, when you understand the secret that has been protected until now, You may realize your entire journey was leading toward a single conversation that is already beginning. Even though you still have no idea who is about to speak your name first, you wake up today believing nothing has changed, but something already has. While you were busy trying to silence your own doubts, while you wondered if love was slipping farther away with every passing day, a decision was made that carries your name. You don't know it yet. No one has called you. No message has appeared. The world outside looks exactly the same, yet beneath the surface, everything has shifted. And the strangest part is this: the person who made that decision is someone you never expected would be thinking about you so deeply. You have probably spent countless nights wondering if you were misunderstood. Maybe you questioned whether your heart was enough, whether your intentions were ever truly seen, whether someone somewhere quietly judged you before giving you a chance. Those questions stayed with you longer than you admitted. They followed you into silent mornings and lonely evenings. But what if those hidden questions have been echoing inside someone else's heart too? What if, without you knowing, another soul has been wrestling with thoughts that could completely change your future? This morning didn't begin with drama. There was no loud argument. No grand announcement. Instead, it started with silence. The kind of silence that feels ordinary until you realize it was preparing something extraordinary. As sunlight crept through the window, the mother of the person you love found herself staring into the distance. Something weighed heavily on her heart. It wasn't fear alone. It wasn't certainty either. It was something much more powerful, the feeling that life was asking her to make a choice she could no longer avoid. At first, she tried to push those thoughts away. She reminded herself of everything she believed before. She repeated old opinions that had become comfortable simply because they had existed for so long. Yet something refused to let her stay there. A memory surfaced without warning. A conversation she almost forgot. A small act of kindness connected to you. A detail everyone else overlooked suddenly became impossible for her to ignore. And once that single memory returned, another one quietly followed behind it. Have you ever noticed how destiny rarely knocks on the front door? It slips through the smallest crack. One unexpected moment. One forgotten sentence. One quiet realization. That's exactly how change entered her heart. Not with force, but with truth. Truth has a strange way of waiting patiently until people are finally ready to face it. This morning, she became ready, although she didn't even realize it at first. The strange thing is that people often believe love belongs only to two hearts. But love never travels alone. It touches families. It awakens old fears. It exposes hidden wounds. Sometimes the greatest obstacle isn't distance or timing. Sometimes it's someone carrying invisible concerns, convinced they're protecting the people they love. And sometimes those concerns begin to melt without anyone noticing, until one unexpected morning changes everything. As she sat there thinking, she began asking herself questions she had avoided for a long time. Was she judging you fairly? Had she confused caution with fear? Had she mistaken silence for weakness? Every answer led to another question. Every question chipped away at walls she had built over months, maybe even years. She wasn't expecting her own heart to challenge her. Yet it refused to stay quiet. Meanwhile, you continued living your day without realizing that invisible doors were opening around you. You worried about signs that never came. You searched for certainty where there was only waiting. You wondered whether hope was foolish. But sometimes hope is working long before evidence appears. Sometimes the miracle begins in another person's heart while you are still praying for your own. There was one thought she simply couldn't escape. It returned again and again until it became louder than every doubt. She remembered how people reveal themselves not through perfect words, but through consistent actions. She thought about moments when you chose kindness instead of pride. She remembered how you respected boundaries even when your own heart was hurting. Those memories refused to disappear. Instead, they grew stronger with every passing minute. Something inside her whispered that maybe she had been watching your story through the wrong window. Maybe she had seen only fragments instead of the whole picture. Maybe every conclusion she reached had been built on incomplete information. That realization unsettled her because admitting it meant accepting something difficult. It meant recognizing that people can change, but it also meant recognizing that perceptions can change too. Then something unexpected happened. A simple conversation, almost insignificant, crossed her path. Someone mentioned your name. It wasn't planned. It wasn't dramatic. Yet the words landed differently than ever before. Instead of reinforcing old beliefs, they challenged them. Instead of creating more distance, they planted curiosity. Curiosity became reflection. Reflection became understanding. Understanding slowly became compassion. And compassion has a remarkable habit of opening doors that logic alone could never unlock. You have no idea how many invisible battles are being fought on your behalf. We often imagine destiny arriving with fireworks, yet real transformation usually happens behind closed doors where no audience exists. Hearts change quietly. Minds soften privately. Forgiveness grows in places where applause never reaches. What happened this morning belongs to that hidden world, the world where tomorrow is quietly being rewritten. Still, she hesitated. One decision can alter relationships forever. One sentence spoken too early or too late can shape years to come. She knew this. That's why she remained still for a long time. She wasn't deciding whether you mattered. She was deciding whether fear deserved to keep speaking louder than hope. And for the first time, hope refused to stay silent. Have you ever felt that invisible pull telling you not to give up, even when every visible sign suggested you should? That feeling isn't always imagination. Sometimes your spirit senses movement before your eyes can witness it. Sometimes your soul recognizes change before reality catches up. Maybe that's why something inside you has felt different lately. Even if you couldn't explain why, the morning continued, but time seemed slower around her. Every memory became clearer. Every assumption became less certain. She realized that protecting someone you love doesn't always mean keeping them away from risk. Sometimes it means allowing them the freedom to discover happiness on their own. That thought frightened her, yet it also brought an unexpected peace. Then came the decision. It wasn't announced aloud. No celebration followed. No one clapped. She simply reached a quiet conclusion deep within herself. A conclusion that surprised even her. She decided she would no longer stand in the way of possibilities that deserved a chance to breathe. She decided that fear had borrowed enough years. Hope deserved its turn. If only you could have seen the expression on her face in that moment. Relief mixed with uncertainty. Faith mixed with vulnerability. It wasn't the face of someone who knew exactly what would happen next. It was the face of someone finally willing to trust that not every future has to repeat the past. Yet here's where everything becomes even more mysterious. A decision inside someone's heart is only the beginning. Life has a way of testing every choice before revealing its reward. New opportunities often arrive disguised as confusion. Old misunderstandings sometimes return one final time before disappearing forever. And just when it seemed the hardest part was over, something completely unexpected appeared, something neither you nor she could have predicted, because while she was finding peace with her decision, another truth was already moving toward both of you. A truth connected to the person you love. A truth hidden behind quiet smiles, unanswered messages, and emotions that have never been spoken out loud. And when that truth finally comes into the light, it won't just change what happens next.